So I'm Professor Agnes, Dr. Agnes Leung, and I'm with Professor Gary Leung and Professor T.F. Leung. So thank you for your interest in the A18, the asthma and allergy team of the Department of Pediatrics. So one of the strengths of our A18 is that we have a long-standing history here. So we have more than 15 to 20 years of established biobanks, and in the biobank we have different human biological samples, DNA, serum, plasma, urine stool, and this form the basis that whenever we have hypothesis, we can test it out in these existing samples so that we can consolidate our hypothesis and move on, create larger validation study to prove our hypothesis. So this is very important and one of the very important strengths. So not only do we collect them in Hong Kong, but we also do have samples from collaborators from different parts of the world, including the mainland China, and also we have a close relationship with Thailand, Singapore, and different Asia-Pacific regions, as well as with some of the European and US group. So I will just briefly talk about the different areas that we one of which is asthma. So we focus on four major aspects, one of which is epidemiology of asthma and allergic diseases. So we are one of the lead collaborators in a large international research consortia, and one of which is the ISAC. So ISAC is a standardized tool in determining patients with allergic diseases, in particular asthma. So we are one of the group that put us in the map here, looking really evaluating what is the burden of allergic diseases, in particular asthma, in the Asia-Pacific region and how they are affecting Chinese. So after participating in these large studies, we also do some local work, looking into the asthma and allergic diseases prevalence at home, and also work with the collaborators in mainland and to help them to look at their burden in the mainland China. So this is we are one of the leaders in this field. And of course, other than that, we also move on to look at a lot of environmental and determinants, as well as gene environmental interaction of asthma. As you can see, asthma there are multiple causes which ultimately leads to asthma. And asthma is not just one single disease, it's a very complicated disease with different phenotypes and different endotypes. And one of the recent research that we have is to look at the allergic disease burden asthma in mainland China, Chonghua, as well as in Hong Kong. So Chonghua is a relatively rural area, uncontaminated. So they still have farms, a lot of poultry, a very uncontaminated area, very beautiful area. And we also compare that with Hong Kong, and we found that the prevalence of asthma and allergic diseases are much lower in Chonghua in comparison to Hong Kong. And then we found that poultry exposure may offer protection against asthma in these rural children. And we are now working on dust, the dust samples collected from these different regions, and look at, in the mouse model, how these dust may offer an anti-inflammatory effect. And as the different speakers here have said that they have been working on RNA sequencing, and this is one of our areas of research as well. So we have close collaborations with collaborators in England. And one of the areas that we also work on is a different asthma monitoring and assessment technique with the non-invasive tools. You can see asthma is not just a clinical diagnosis, we also sometimes need other tools to help us objectively characterize asthma and to determine its severity. So, so this is one of the areas that we work on. So I'll move on a little bit to talk about the other areas of research, food allergy and eczema. So as with asthma, we also participate in a lot of international consortia, and this is one that is led by the Europe Prevail Study Group. And so Professor Gary Wong is a leading collaborative group to look at the prevalence of food allergy in the different Asia-Pacific region, so that we can compare it with the Western world, so that we know that food allergy is not actually that rare in the Asia-Pacific region. The trend is rising. And we also work a lot on food allergy. So this is one of the recent findings that we have. We look at an improved diagnosis as well as treatment for our patients with food allergies. So this is one of the recent press releases that look at the basophil activation test, how it can improve the diagnosis of shellfish allergies. And we also recently identified a new component in a commonly consumed fish, guanyu, grass carp, which is very popular in the local population. So we are actually one of the main researcher, the only researcher in Hong Kong and one of the main researchers in the Asia Pacific region that actually perform the gold standard diagnostic test for our food allergic patients, which is the double-blind, placebo-controlled oral food challenge. A lot of the big work group, even in the Western world, they do not have the capacity to do it. It's a lot of manpower, it's a very structured team to do it. And for us, we have a team of dedicated as well as experienced dietitians to help us perform these oral food challenges. And besides the oral food challenge, we use, with this oral food challenge, which is the gold standard diagnostic test, we can then see how the novel diagnostic test compare against this gold standard test. So one of the few novel tests that we have also identified recently are the components in the different seafood. So apart from grass carp, we identified the albumin and registered in this WHO database, and we also obtained a patent in the novel diagnostic technique in fish allergy. And other than that, in the area of crustacean allergy, we also found different new molecules. So this helped us. This really changed the way that the world now is looking into shellfish allergy diagnostics. And last but not least is the basophil activation test. One of the IgE cross-linking assays, so the other one is the XL test that we also work on. So what we really do is not just quantitatively look at the IgE measurement, but we also look at the functional assay, how with the IgE cross-linking, it activates the basophil and eventually leads to an allergic reactions. So we, as the first group, that look at how basophil activation tests can be used in shellfish allergy diagnosis. And we're the first to report that we think that this may actually move the direction, the whole era towards a more precision method in the area of allergy diagnostics. And this would be really one of the last few things that I want to say is we also are leading a few birth cohorts, one of which is the mummy. So this is just one of the birth cohorts, but just in this mummy cohort, we have already completed 1,500 mother-baby-child recruitment. So with this large samples, subject, we are able to determine the incidence and the trajectory of allergic diseases. And one of our research interests is really to look at the microbiome and also the metabolomic profile of patients who eventually develop allergic diseases, host-micro interaction, and also look at the metabolomic at the downstream level. And in the past 20 years, we have also established a lot of serial markers and also a lot of different assessment tools. And with this large cohort, we can also test out our assessment tools and see how we can utilize them in the Chinese population. And I'd just really like to end the talk here. Thank you for staying till the end. So if you are interested, please find us, email us, and ask for more information. And I'm also happy to be here to answer anything that you want to look into. And I'll also just like to, last bit is to, can you see the screen here? Yeah, just to introduce you our website here. So here we have also got a page with our recent MPhil and PhD students. We're still updating our page here, which we've just started 1 to 2 years ago. We have actually a lot more students, but this is the recent one who are with us in the past 1 to 2 years. And they would just like to share their thoughts as well. So this is their own words put into our website here. Together, you can also find our different research interests and also a lot of educational tools that we actually create for our patients as well. So we're a team that are dedicated not only in research, but also in education. So thank you very much for listening.